Do you feel it? Deep down inside. You are strong. You must work together. You must become warriors.
Ready?
Ready.
Let's go!
Power Rangers.
Fire!
This is your time. Power Rangers.
Rated PG-13 in theaters March 20.
Hey everybody, it's Matt here. I just got back from watching Power Rangers. Not Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Just Power Rangers, or Saban's Power Rangers, as it is in the title you see on the posters and within the show itself and the movie. But so before I get into the film itself, I'm going to just backpedal a little bit here and talk about the show itself. Now, I was in, I guess, probably the age demographic that this was kind of set forth. I was like in 6th or 7th grade, I would like to say, I think, when this first debuted. And it was like one of those things that even then at that age period, you know, nobody wanted to admit to each other that they were watching Power Rangers, because it was one of those, like, you were at that age where you're kind of like, well, I'm an adult now because I'm going to be in like 8th grade soon and I got to grow up. And, but you knew people were watching it anyway. I enjoyed the show back in the day. Like I did. It had, you know, surprise for me, right? Cause I'm into King Kong and Godzilla and all that. Like Power Rangers, people that have special powers, that, you know, suits and stuff that are handed to them from some extraterrestrial being that has them fight monsters from outer space. Like, how could that not be up my alley, you know? So, you know, with that being said, I enjoyed the show back in the day. And when it was announced that this movie was going to happen, like, I was scratching my head, because this was a joke between, you know, co-hosts on Grindcast and other people I talk to that like watch movies religiously and everything. This was a big joke that we always had between each other, that, you know, oh, next they're going to do a dark Power Rangers movie. And then we saw the suits. Nobody can forget that day when the first picture of the suits surfaced and we're like, oh shit. Oh no. They look like Iron Man. And they did. It looked like Iron Man's. I remember, it was a friend Jim of mine. He sent me the picture of it on Facebook and I was like, man, Tony Stark is gonna be pissed. But, you know, so we had that picture. Everybody knew it was happening. I think everybody just kind of accepted that it was gonna happen and they just moved on. And then, you know, the first trailer came out and that even still had me scratching my head, because it really told you nothing about what the movie was trying to do. You know, because it was, you know, you're getting a new movie, so you know it's going to be an origin story, which it is. I'll tell you that right now. It's an origin story. But with the trailer, you knew that you were going to meet the kids, like the very first trailer. I think by the time they put out the 3rd or 4th theatrical trailer or whatever, they gave you more about what was going to happen with the kids. But initially, you just knew that there was going to be 5 and, you know, they were going to end up being Power Rangers, and there was Goldar, you know, eventually. So, you know, so fast forwarding now, we saw the movie about, you know, the Power Rangers themselves fighting Rita Repulsa, which, you know, of course that's who that's going to be. And then everybody knows that Goldar's in it, and Goldar looks terrible to me. Even for a movie that comes out in this time period, where we've had realistic looking dinosaurs, we've had realistic looking, you know, like take Moana, for example. If it wasn't for the Disney characters that were in that film, the backdrops and everything else in that movie would look photorealistic. Like, we're getting to that point, and Goldar just looks like garbage. But I'll get into that a little bit later. First thing I want to talk about, I'm going to try and wrap up this as good as I can, because I want to try and do a non-spoiler section and then a spoiler section for these. So, because a couple people asked me, they're like, I wanted to listen to your review, but you said it was spoilers, so I didn't listen. So I'm going to try and split it up a little bit here. So what I'm going to say is, with this film, is that the character building is great, but it takes way too long. It takes an enormously long amount of time. You know, the movie's like 2.5 hours. It's 2 hours and some odd minutes long. And like, you know, it takes way too, it's like hours that you're getting to learn who these characters are. And it's, you know, I feel like that could have been chopped down to maybe 45 minutes tops. And then we could have gotten into some Power Ranger action. It just takes way, way too long. One of my other gripes with the film is the actress that plays Rita Repulsa. Like oh my God, I got so many problems with this actress. Like, I know it's Rita Repulsa and you don't have much to work with, but it's bad. Like, anytime she comes on, I'm like, how am I supposed to, I'm not frightened by this person. I'm not even that angry at this person. They're there, and she overhams the hell out of the Rita character. And I know the show Rita was quite hammy as it was, but this is supposed to be your new dark Power Rangers, and Rita just does not make me, it's not a good villain. It just isn't. So I'm putting that out there right now. I didn't care for the Rita Repulsa character. Cheesy, hammy, not scary, not intimidating, and, you know, just terrible. I'm just going to leave it at that. Bryan Cranston, everybody knows that he's in the movie. He played Zordon. Honestly, I feel like after Godzilla, whenever there's a big film like this, they kind of just put him in for little bits and pieces, and they don't really give him good lines or anything. He did what he was supposed to do. He was Zordon, but he didn't really bring anything to the table. The meat and potatoes of this movie, where it lies, is the acting from the teenagers. And, you know, they actually got people, like, I don't think they're teenagers, but, you know, they wrote the characters like teenagers in this movie. They have problems. You know, each one of them has their own, you know, thing that they deal with outside of school. You know, they actually show them going to school, and, you know, it's darker in the sense that it's more real for the characters. And every one of the characters that, you know, was a Power Ranger, their acting was great. Like, every single one of them, they did a really good job. And, you know, sometimes people say, oh, it's because they're no-name actors. You don't recognize them because they haven't really done much. And it's like, no, this time around, like, even though I didn't know who most of them were, I could still believe what they were doing. Like, I believe, my thought of, oh, that's that person and they're just acting, like, that whole thing was gone. I believed that these guys were trying to become Power Rangers. So, you know, the main actors and actresses in the movie are great. Some of the parents are kind of bleh, you know, and some of the dialogue is really kind of cringeworthy. And sometimes, like, again, I'm not going to get into it in this section because that's spoilers, but some of the dialogue's really cringeworthy. When you go to see it, you'll know what I mean. So I'm going to get that part out of the way. I'm just going to throw a rating out right now at this part of it. I would say, you know, I'm probably going to give it a 6.5 to a 7, like somewhere in that time, in that area. I'm not, you know, I'm not like on the fence with this one. It's on the better side. It's not a terrible movie. It's not great. It's not bad. You know, it just fits right in that comfortable pocket of mediocre. It's average, you know. It's a little above average. So it's a good time. It's got action in it. It's, you know, it's entertaining for the most part. It just takes a while to get to it. So that was my review for Power Rangers, and I'm going to jump into spoilers now. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers, maybe you can listen to this back after you finish the film and see how you agree with me or not. So now that that's out of the way, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of this review. Now, as I said earlier, all the kids were great. They were great actors. Some of them, I think, were written really badly. Trini, the Yellow Ranger, she's written off to be this, tough as nails high school girl who doesn't give a shit about anybody, doesn't care about even family. And, you know, the family kind of treats her they kind of don't treat her greatest because she's acting weird and doing weird things. So they're like trying to get her to act normal. And all the scenes she's in, she's always like, oh, I don't want to be normal. I don't want to be, I'm just like, I don't care. I do not care. if anything, this is making me not give a shit about you become a Power Ranger, because it's just, you're becoming a very unlikable character. Like, even later on in the film, when they start getting, like, they're told about all this and, you know, they know that they're going to have powers and everything, she still acts like she doesn't want to be with the group. And that just bugged the shit out of me. Another thing that was weird to me was, and I know I'm going, I'll get the bad stuff out of the way and then we'll get into the better things. Some of the other stuff that kind of bugged me was like, these kids keep like getting like where the spaceship is. And it's not a fort this time. It's a spaceship that got like in the ground. I don't know. 'Cause when the movie opens, we see Bryan Cranston as like this blue alien guy, and he's the Red Ranger. So that was like the twist in this one, is that Zordon was the original Red Ranger. And, Rita is the Green Ranger, which I hate that idea. But anyhow, you know, Bryan Cranston as the Red Ranger was fighting Rita to stop her from trying to grab this crystal that's in the earth that harnesses our power for the earth, and it would destroy us and everything on the earth if it was, you know, got. And so that all ends badly. All the Power Rangers from Bryan Cranston's team die. He's the last one that, you know, alive. And he tells like, Alpha to send, I guess, a meteor or the ship, crash it into the planet. So he hides the stones down in the earth. I guess that's how the ship or whatever it is he sent gets crashed into the planet. And fast forwarding to future 65 million years, I'm assuming is what they said it was that passed. And then you have Angel Grove, and all that stuff is in a dig site. And the kids just, you know, as most teenagers do in high school, they just love playing around, you know, quarries. I don't get that at all. Like, it's funny because they do the character development. Like, to me, it made sense how Billy, who was the best character in the whole film, by the way, how Billy wants to go there because he's studying the area and all that. And, you know, he wants to go there to see what's down in this area because he's trying to go deeper because he has like all this data and all this stuff. And, you know, he gets, the Red Ranger to come with him because, you know, he's like, oh, well, you need to come with me and, you know, I'll let you borrow my car. And that gets him into it. And he goes with him. And that, you know, basically that's a really neat way to get, you know, the lead character to follow him to this blast site, you know, to like this quarry where they come across this stuff. But so you have those two characters there. And then, Kimberly is she's just swimming in the quarry. Like, they show her like get down to her underwear and dive into the quarry, and that's that. You know, like, I'm just like, that's weird. Like, out of all the places to go swimming, you pick a quarry that you're not supposed to be in. I don't know. Maybe things are different in Angel Grove. I don't know. But so she's there doing that, and then even more weirdly, they're like, Zach, he's just hanging out by a train car station that's by the quarry, and he's just sitting there like with a fire in a barrel below him, and then he just sits up and he looks over, and then there's the Yellow Ranger, you know, she's just over there listening to death metal, doing karate moves. It was weird. It was awkward. Like, and for all the writing that they did well to depict teenagers with like angst and stuff, like, I felt like they had no idea what teenagers actually would do, you know, with their free time. So, you know, despite that, they're all there, and, you know, Billy's setting up this charge, and, you know, and unlike, I'm sure everybody knows this, unlike the Power Rangers show, Billy, the Blue Ranger, he's played by the black character this time. Like, they did a switcheroo, so it wasn't like the Black Ranger was the black guy. They have an Asian male playing the black Power Ranger, and Billy's the blue. Doesn't fucking matter, but everybody's like, a couple of people are up in arms about it because they don't understand why they had to make a switch. But, you know, I'm reviewing it, so I had to bring it up at least a little bit. doesn't matter. It doesn't really change much of anything. Billy's still the best character in the whole film. So he's blowing, he sets up this charge, blows the quarry, and then they all come down there because they hear the explosion, and there's like this ice area, like encasement, and inside is the 5 colored stones. And they're stones this time, although I thought they were like amulets or whatever in the original show, but they're just like these stone ruins this time. They each take them, and unlike the show where they're in human form, they don't really have powers. This time they actually have super strength and, super endurance and all that kind of stuff without the suits, which I thought was kind of an interesting change, which would kind of make sense if you have these ruins and it makes you able to get super armor or whatever, like you would probably have some kind of, extra super ability attached other than that. But, so yeah, they find the amulets, they each go home, they all discover this weird stuff that's going on with them, then they decide to go back, and that's when they go down into this, deeper part of the quarry where there's like a ravine. They go down in this water, and they find out on the other, they go swimming down, and then there's a reverse side of the pond, or like the little water, that they can come out of that, and they're in like the spaceship. They meet Zordon. Zordon tells them that they have to morph, and they go to do it, and they can't. Now, this is one part that I have a really big problem with. Not just because I feel like they should just be able to morph right away, but it's just another reason to make the movie go longer than it really needs to. And they say Zordon tells them they can't morph because, there's like a weak link in it and in the chain of them, and they all have to believe in each other, and, all this like really weird crap. And you find out it's like, yeah, they have to really care and like love for each other in order for the morphing to actually happen, which in the show, like, they were all friends, but even when they hated each other, there were like many times the Black and the Red Ranger, like, they didn't see eye to eye and they hated each other, but they could still morph. So that's, I don't know, it didn't make any sense to me other than to just drag it out longer. And as soon as the morphing thing happens, like where they can't morph, that's where the movie kind of picks up and has like multiple subplots. Because then you gotta learn about each one of their problems, and, it takes you there and it goes through that and tells you all that that's like almost 5 times you go through all this. Except for like Billy, they kind of just give Billy, like, he talks about his father from time to time, and you get the idea that his father is not really in the picture, and that's it. They don't really give Billy like any of this like backstory stuff. The Zach gets a lot of backstory about his mom. She's terminally ill, and Trini gets a little bit of a backstory about like her, family and how they treat her differently and how she doesn't want to be normal and and then, they eventually become one because Billy almost gets killed because, all of a sudden the Red Ranger decides, hey, Rita's back now, and she's going to summon Goldar, which Goldar is made out of gold. I love this. Goldar is made completely out of gold, and the only way he gets back, like, is because Rita goes around just stealing as much gold as she can. Like a goddamn Spider-Man villain, going around to jewelry stores, stealing gold, picking gold out of homeless people's teeth. Which, honestly, I don't think a homeless person would have gold teeth, because I would imagine they would have traded that in for money by that time. But that's not the point. That's not the point. But she's going around stealing gold, and then she apparently gets enough gold in time, and I guess gets some, because like she raises him out of the quarry that was near where Zordon's ship was, and the gold just seeps up out of the ground, and I'm like, why didn't you just do that in the first place? I don't know, like I said, the villains in this thing are the worst. They're the worst written, worst acted part of the whole thing. But, so, the kids, like, Billy gets killed because the Red Ranger decides they're gonna go fight her without the armor. That goes terribly. And Billy was, in the meantime, there was a subplot of Billy trying to figure out where the crystal was down in the earth. He finds out where it is, and lo and behold, it is in nowhere other than Get you ready for this? The crystal is under a Krispy Kreme restaurant. I'm not making this up. Krispy Kreme must have spent a shit ton of money being able to be a main plot device and also have their logo and products and everything shown in this movie multiple times. I mean, there's even a goddamn shot of Rita, as Goldar's bashing the shit out of this Krispy Kreme in Angel Grove. She goes in and she's eating a donut and looking like it's a donut that is just the most sexual thing on the face of the earth. She is just, completely engulfed by this delectable treat. To me, I'm just like, oh my God. Krispy Kreme. Seriously? What? I don't know. It's fucking weird. I don't get it. Of all the people that could try and get a sponsor out of this, I did Krispy Kreme. This is as weird to me as when I saw Man of Steel and IHOP was mentioned 30 times in the movie. I don't really get this shit. So anyhow, Billy's dying, and there was another subplot earlier in the film that Zordon needed the Power Rangers to morph because that would be the only thing that would help him come back to life. So he was almost just tricking them into being Power Rangers so he could come back to life because he thinks he's the only person that can beat Rita. So then, like I said, Billy dies. The kids, they bring him back to Zordon. Zordon's like, there's nothing I can do for him. Just wait 5 minutes, though, and then there's something I can do for him. He, the morphing grid, which is, I guess is almost works just like the Force does in Star Wars or whatever. Apparently, the morphing grid opens, and then Zordon's able to come back then. But instead of coming back, he's like, well, there's only one person at a time that could come back. So he brings Billy back to life. So Billy's back, and because he's back and they all realize how much they love each other, they're able to morph. So now they have their armor. They're going to go stop Rita. As they're going to stop Rita, then putties start showing up. And putties in this movie they're actually a really good upgrade, I would say. In the show, they were just people wearing purple spandex with prune faces. This, they're actually kind of they're enemies that are kind of made out of the rock, out of the bedrock and stuff of the quarry. So they have a little bit more of an they're intimidating a little bit more because they're big, they're bulky. They carry some weight to them. They look cool. And I will say the part where the Rangers come up out of their out of Zordon's ship and everything, and they're on this hillside in this quarry, fighting putties, and they kind of do a faraway aerial shot of them running towards putties and the putties running towards them, and they're just kicking and doing martial arts and everything. And I was like, this is probably the closest this is going to come to look like the actual show did. And it felt like you were watching the actual show at that point. That's a really good part of the film. So then they're done fighting putties. They look off and they see Goldar is resurrected and he's walking off towards Angel Grove. So they're like, well, we got to stop him. Then that's where the Zords come in. The Zords in this look not very much different than the Dinobots did in I guess that was the fourth Transformers film, I would say, whether they were introduced. They look almost just like those. I would say the Megazord and them, it's the CG is equal to that of what they did with Transformers. It's just a jumbled mess of colors and mechanical parts. You can't really make out a certain shape really out of any of it, except maybe Kimberly's pterodactyl one, because it looks like a pterodactyl. But yeah, so then the big epic climax fight happens, and this is the last 15 minutes of the movie. You literally almost wait 2 hours. I'd say maybe an hour and a half before you actually see them in full armor fighting anything. And then even then, after they're done fighting the putties and they're in their Megazords and they're fighting, they did this, they changed it where their visor part and their mouth part can just dissipate and you just see the actors' faces inside the suits. That's that for the rest of the movie. You see them in full on Power Rangers armor for maybe 2 minutes. And then the rest of it is like with the face, you can see the actor inside the costume. So it's, with that part of it, it's a little disappointing. The theme song does show up as they're in their Zords, like going off to fight Goldar. The theme song shows up. It's like there for 10 seconds and it just kind of goes away. And, they fight Goldar. They get pushed into, like, Goldar finds the crystal. He punches down like 100 feet into the freaking earth or whatever. Like this impossibly long distance, he is able to punch down into the earth. The crystal's there. Rita has Goldar push all the Rangers in their Zords because like they made a line. They're like, hold the line, don't let him get the crystal. And he pushes them in. And then I guess for some reason, because that happens, the Zords just kind of make a Megazord from, I don't know. I don't get it. They just like, it just did it on itself. They didn't have to make it do anything. It just did it. So the Megazord is together, and I have to say he looks kind of underwhelming. It's just a shape of a humanoid figure with some accents of color, and that's about it. It kind of almost looks like Ultron. To be completely honest, it looks like Ultron with some blues, yellows, reds, and pinks and blacks thrown in it. That's really all I can say about it. It's not really that cool. In the show, all of the people, all of the Rangers were in the head, kind of like stationed in a head, kind of like a safe spot. And this one, they're just kind of in like their little glass cockpit sticking to the side of it. Like the Red Ranger's like right where the chest is. Then each leg has like a Ranger there in a little glass capsule. And then each arm has one in a glass capsule. And they're just like there right on the front. And I'm like, you're like exposed. Really badly exposed. Like you could just get crushed to death right now. I thought that was kind of dumb. It just didn't look good. So of course, they defeat Goldar. They punch Rita. Like, Rita was able to fuse with Goldar. And that's what, I guess she then got control of him. And that's when they started doing like a 30-second boxing match between the two of them. And like Rita comes out after she realized she's beat, and they just kind of like backhand her into space, and she gets frozen there. And then that's it. That's the movie. They make the Megazord do a little dance, which was kind of stupid, and that was it. That's the movie. Like I said, I know it sounds like I bitched a lot, but it wasn't really that bad. It could have been a lot worse. Definitely go for it for the story of, the origin of how the Rangers got there. Now, I know it's going to take a while, and I know that you just want to see the Power Rangers fight, but, the build-up is long, but it does pay off in the end, and when the Power Rangers actually do their thing, and they're in the suits and everything, it's really awesome. So, like I said earlier, 6.5 to 7. I think that's a pretty safe range for this. I would say go see it. I don't know, like you could probably take your young ones to it. There is some language here and there, and it is a little bit darker. It's not like super family friendly, but if your kid knows good enough, and you probably would be safe taking them to this. So just be prepared to possibly, if you got your little ones, you're going to be making a bathroom run or two, because it's going to take some time, and they might lose some of their focus. So, I mean, because it's geared more towards the teenage audience, to be completely honest. But still, if you want to introduce your kids to something you watched in your generation and get a whole new generation of Power Ranger lovers, go ahead and take them. It should be fine. So, that'll wrap up this review, guys. If you'd like to leave a comment, please catch me on Facebook at facebook.com/grindedword. You can also hit me up at Twitter at grindedword on Twitter, and at grindedword.com. And I think that should about wrap it up. If you like this review, please share it around on Facebook and Twitter with your friends, and I will catch you in the next movie. See you guys.